is a show that focuses on the person behind the brony. I'm your host, Osaka Jack. Please sit back and relax as we talk to this week's guest brony. Hello everyone, this is Osaka Jack with Into the Spotlight on Everfree Network. With me today, I have somebody who is involved with comics a lot more than you might believe. Ms. Dana Simpson, hello!
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm doing really well. It's
cool.
sunny, and it's not that cold, and I'm on the podcast, and generally things are meeting with my approval.
As it has been foretold by my fathers, spring has sprung, the grass is riz, I wonders where de flowers is.
Truer words were seldom said.
Yes. More clearly said, absolutely, but truer, no. No, not truer.
So, what's up?
Well, if anybody is not familiar, can you describe a little bit, what do you do?
I am the creator and artist and writer of the comic strip Heavenly Nostrils, which appears on GoComics.com and is the story of a little girl who manipulates a unicorn into becoming her best friend.
That was a mouthful, yes.
Yeah, that was sort of that was my spiel from the table at cons. I just did Emerald City Comic Con, and so it's fresh in my brain.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
Before that, I was a web cartoonist for some years. I used to do a strip called Ozzie and Millie, which I know some in the pony community are fans of, or were fans of while it was ongoing.
Right. And you also are involved with the Everfree Northwest staff, correct?
I am. For the last couple of years, I have been the lead staff artist, or for a while the only staff artist for Everfree Northwest.
Just because you're the only staff artist doesn't mean you're not the lead. Of course you're the lead if you're the only.
Just by default, which is a fine way to be the lead of something.
Technically, you're on the bottom of the ladder as well, but we won't mention that. We'll just
It's sort of more fun when there's other people that you can be like, well, I don't want to do this, but I outrank you, so you do it.
Very true.
After this year, I sort of expect to hand over more of the Everfree art duties to some other people, just because I no longer have any free... Yeah, I don't have any free time anymore.
Yeah, I can understand that. It eats into the free time much more than you might believe.
Yeah, well, at the moment, I'm also doing stuff for the Heavenly Nostrils book, and I have to do the strip every day, and it's really fun. I love drawing ponies. I love getting to... And I will never stop drawing ponies. But having to do art on a deadline for a PonyCon is perhaps one more obligation than I will choose to have next year. But God, it's been fun.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's been a blast. It's been the most fun unpaid job I've ever done. Well, not completely unpaid. There are perks, but you know what I mean.
Right. I refer to what many of us do as a professional hobby.
That's a good way of describing it.
Mm-hmm. And because money isn't really in it. I mean, I don't get a cent for this, not one dime. But there are other things that I get. I get to talk to awesome people that I would not otherwise. I get occasionally people will, you're Osaka Jack. Yes, I am. You know me? Oh, hey, thank you. I appreciate it.
English needs a term for that, for something that's more serious than a hobby, but that you aren't paid for.
Yeah. I like professional hobby.
Professional hobby is a good way of expressing that. I think I'm going to start using that.
Yeah, but we still need a single term for it.
But I actually get paid for my comics, so...
This is true.
I didn't get paid very well for it for a very long time, but now I do, which is nice.
Always nice to get that. Oh, I can get paid for doing what I've already been doing? Really?
Yeah, sometimes the way to get paid for something is to not get paid for it for years, and then one day someone just decides to start paying you. I actually don't recommend that as a plan, but sometimes it works that way.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I was speaking English for years before I got paid for... I can get paid to speak English? Really?
Yeah, I bet you didn't know that was a meaningful career skill.
Had no idea.
I have excellent handwriting, and I used to think that was just the most useless talent to have, but in doing comics, it's actually a good skill.
Though it does mean that you can never be a doctor.
Yes, my brother's a doctor. My brother has absolutely indecipherable handwriting.
And that's the point. It really is.
It scares me. I want my prescriptions read correctly.
Yes. In this day and age, the fact that why don't you just text my pharmacist directly, okay? That way I know you're getting the spelling and everything else correct, and they're not just going back there, okay, placebo flavor B.
I don't know. Then you bring autocorrect into the mix.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
I don't know. I don't necessarily want to know what autocorrect is going to think a doctor who has just misspelled a word like fluoxetine is.
You have written naproxen. Did you mean acetylene? No, I
Did
did
you
not.
mean necrophobe?
Oh, God. You make an excellent point, yes.
Yeah, doctors are hopeless. Oh, no, not doctors generally, just my brother.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I'll compare it to some other things and say that it's not necessarily everyone, but I have yet to meet anyone that defies it.
I designed most of my own fonts for Heavenly Nostrils.
Really? Now that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, when I was a web cartoonist, I actually did all the lettering by hand. And that was it. I don't know. I think it's sort of part of the style with a lot of strips. Like,
right.
One of the things that's very distracting for me about a comic is if the font is poorly chosen.
Yeah.
Or if it's lettered in a way that makes it difficult to read, or almost more importantly than that, doesn't mesh well with the drawing style.
Sure.
And so I wanted to do a font for this strip because it's created digitally. Unlike I used to work on paper, now it's all digital. So I wanted a font, but I wanted to do it myself, and I wanted it to be a font that I thought would go well with the drawing style of the strip. And I'm actually pretty proud of what I was able to come up with. It's about my fourth attempt, but I think it works.
I think it does too, and honestly, it's not something that I noticed until you just pointed it out. But looking at it now, yeah, it works. It works very well. I found it funny. When was that? Long time ago. I think it was Scott Adams, creator of Dilbert. He had an injury and he couldn't use his right hand for a few weeks.
And he experimented with using a font, and people complained about it.
Yeah, well, and it wasn't so much that he had. I think at this point he has all of his letters fonted. I'm pretty sure he doesn't ink them by hand anymore. But at this point, you can tell that he worked at it. And when that happened, yeah, he tried to use a font and just do the best he could because he couldn't stop.
But it changed how the strip looked and felt, and readers noticed.
Exactly, yes.
Readers can be oddly perceptive.
Oh, yeah. Yep, absolutely. I think a lot of them might not have specifically said, "Oh, the font looks," but they might have been like, "This looks odd. Something's wrong here."
I pretty much always assume anything I do in the strip that's different, or any detail that that I start messing around with, people are going to notice.
Yeah.
Even in my web cartoonist years with Ozzy and Millie, when my audience was quite a bit smaller, somebody would notice anything. Anything I got wrong, people would just be all over me for it. And I like that about fans.
Right.
And obviously pony fans don't give the show people any slack.
No, not at all. Though I have yet to see people complain that there's no more unicorn ponies.
Are there no more unicorn ponies?
Not unicorn, I'm sorry, Cyclops ponies.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, I think there's actually still a lot of unicorn ponies.
This is still
Cyclops
AM
is something else.
This is still AM for me, and caffeine is working its magic, but has not fully taken hold yet, and I apologize for that one. I knew what I meant, and that's all that's important.
There's not as many unicorn ponies as there used to be. One of them is an alicorn.
That's true, yes. And I can foresee that happening to every single one of the main 6.
Yep.
It's going to be my little alicorn come season 5.
Rainbow Dash will learn that she has to go through being a unicorn before she can get to alicorn, so she has to give up her wings, and that'll be a whole thing.
Oh, wow.
Writers, if you write that, I'm going to sue you.
Though, honestly, they probably already have written it.
Oh, yeah. Or something much better that I can't think of, which is why I'm not writing the show.
Likewise, yes. Well, yeah, let's speak for a bit about Heavenly Nostrils. Now, I'm going to guess that not everybody recognizes the title for what it means.
It is the full name of the strip's unicorn is Marigold Heavenly Nostrils. Mm-hmm. Now, that is a name that I got by typing my own name Dana Claire Simpson into the online unicorn name generator.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, what it actually gave me back was the name Marigold's Celestial Nostrils.
Okay.
And I changed Celestial to Heavenly so that people wouldn't immediately think of Princess Celestia.
Okay.
The strip would
Yeah,
probably be called Celestial Nostrils had that not happened.
I
You know,
got you.
had there not been an existing Celestia, I didn't want to immediately just, make people think of.
Sure, sure. Okay.
And I called the strip Heavenly Nostrils. The way that the strip got syndicated in the first place was
Hmm.
that I won the comic strip superstar contest a few years ago
Okay.
on Amazon.com, and the prize for winning this was I got a development deal for syndication and a book contract, and I got online syndication.
Oh,
And
okay.
so, but I won for a strip called Girl,
Okay.
and Girl was something that I did. I hadn't really developed it as a full strip. I came up with 2 weeks worth of strips, 12 dailies and 2 Sundays,
Right.
and I submitted it thinking, I've been doing comics for a long time. I'm as
Hmm.
qualified to win this as anybody is, and I
Right.
won, and it was awesome. And I did a victory dance around my house and kissed my cat on the lips or something. I don't know. It was an exciting, heady day. And but then my development contract was a couple years, and I ended up using all of it and getting from having these 12 to these 14 strips
Mhm.
to having something that I could do every day and that it could really be a voice that I could speak with creatively. It
Sure.
turned out to be a long process that had an unexpected unicorn in it.
Okay.
The the character, the little girl in the strip, whose name is Phoebe.
Mhm.
She was the girl of the original title, Girl.
I see.
She had not yet acquired the name Phoebe,
Okay.
and she looks a little different now, but it's the same character, same. She has the same dark hair, the same freckles. It's the same kid,
Okay.
and um, she really started to come alive when I paired her up with a unicorn somehow.
Okay.
I think for the same reason Calvin and Hobbes works. I mean, what's the if a boy and a tiger? What's the female equivalent of a boy and a tiger? Girl and a unicorn is a pretty good answer.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty close.
And so this unicorn sort of when I was doing version after version of the strip, trying to hit on something that would actually get a launch and that the syndicate would be really into.
Mhm.
Um, Eventually, this unicorn showed up, and she was sort of a one shot character at first, but I almost immediately knew, no, I like that character. I want to do more with her, and she ended up half taking over the strip, and that's how Heavenly Nostrils came to be what it was. And
Ah,
obviously, we couldn't keep calling the strip Girl at that point.
right.
And anyway, they didn't want me to call it that because it's really hard to Google.
That, yes, I would imagine.
And actually, a little hard to talk about coherently. It's like trying to discuss the band live.
Yes, I can see that. Sure.
Uh, yeah, Heavenly Nostrils has the benefit of being very easy to Google.
Yeah.
It is, I think, only the second use of that phrase in English, uh, at least in published English, that I've been able to find. The first is in a translation of the Iliad,
Okay.
which is not actually where I got the name of the strip, but I should start saying it is.
Yeah, we'll just say it's a combination.
Yeah, it's
Interesting.
it's a it's an after the fact reference. The
Right, right.
the the gods of ancient Greece willed it
Gotcha, gotcha.
because Iliad. Yeah. What was I talking about? Oh,
Uh,
I
yeah.
was just sort of talking in a general way about Heavenly Nostrils and the
Right, right, right.
nature of that title.
Okay.
So I think I've talked about that sufficiently, and that's that answer.
Yeah, and we mentioned it a bit, but it's similar to a Calvin and Hobbes feel.
I get that from people a lot, and I do not discourage it because
Yep.
it is kind of what I was going for. I sort of consciously set out to write something like Calvin and Hobbes, but with a female perspective.
Right, right.
That's one of the things that really inspires me about My Little Pony. I mean, I've been a fan of that show since season one. I go
Wow.
way back because a friend made me watch it, and like so many people after me, I was like, hey. And I read sometime, I think sometime like between season 1 and 2, Lauren Faust gave this interview to Equestria Daily, where she was talking about various stuff. But what stood out for me about it was that she talked about, I don't know, I don't think she used the word feminist.
Right.
I'd have to go back and look. I don't think she did, but that was sort of the gist of it. Like, she wanted to create something with a specifically feminine viewpoint.
Sure, sure.
How a lot of stuff, a lot of entertainment that's, supposed to be for both genders or whatever, there's one girl and her main personality trait is that she's the girl.
Yeah.
The
Yeah, I've seen that.
Smurfette syndrome.
Yeah, the Lola Bunny. Right.
Yeah, and you see that all over.
Yeah,
And
if a character is only defined by their identity and nothing in their actual personality, then it's not a character. It's just a token.
whereas in Pony, feminine is the default. I mean, it's not that
Right.
guys aren't there. I don't think it's anti-male in its viewpoint, but it's sort of flipped from what you see in most popular stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And Lauren talked about having done that very deliberately, and I was struck by that, and that was sort of it was one of the things that led me to realizing that what I really felt like doing was a strip with two female leads talking to each other, which sort of led me then to, okay, well, what would Girl, Calvin, and Hobbes be like? What would...
Right.
Yeah, that was my journey with ponies in creating this strip. It was, obviously, obviously Calvin and Hobbes is a big influence.
Sure.
The Last Unicorn had a lot to do with how Marigold has ended up being.
Okay. Yeah, I can see some of the visual style of Marigold's similar to a Last Unicorn. I can see it.
As I was developing the strip, I don't know if you've ever seen, or if anyone listening has ever seen, the graphic novel version of The Last Unicorn that came out in Marvel. No, IDW put that out in 2010.
Oh, wow. I have not. I'll have to look for that.
It is really beautiful. It might actually be my favorite version of the story, and I say this as somebody who's always loved the book and the movie.
Interesting.
But the graphic novel is just... I mean, the artwork in it is so great. I mean, it's as beautiful as the movie without the baggage of looking like Rankin Bass.
Right. Okay. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, it's really quite something. And I had this on my desk the whole time I was designing Marigold, and I kept referring to it.
Mm-mm-mm.
And then I got to know Peter S. Beagle later.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I was tweeting one day, and I feel as a professional obligation that if you are trying to make money on the internet, you have to use Twitter. You don't really get a choice. So
Yeah,
I was on Twitter. And for whatever reason, that day I tweeted, without at Peter S. Beagle, there would be no Marigold Heavenly Nostrils.
Ha.
And then Peter started tweeting back at me.
Oh, cool.
And I went, ah! And so, he wrote the intro to my book that's coming out in September.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he wrote the intro to the first Heavenly Nostrils book. And also I've gotten to meet him and make some public appearances with him. He's doing the Last Unicorn tour now. They've got a new digital print of the film, and he's been taking it around around the continent, I think.
Oh, wow, nice.
Doing this tour of showing the film and appearing personally and talking about it and giving cool stuff away to fans. And I have had the privilege of being on some of these tour stops, and he introduces me and talks about the strip. And I think Peter knows that he influenced me, and I think that pleases him. He sort of sees me as one of his creative descendants.
Nice.
I have joined the Unicorn Society. I did not realize that was what I was doing, but now I'm one of the Unicorn people, and I get to hang out with Peter Beagle.
That's great. I have heard that Christopher Lee, who does the voice of King Haggard in the Last Unicorn one, he has expressed interest in doing a live-action version of it, but it apparently every studio is dragging its feet, and I'm like, hurry! He's kind of old!
Yeah, let me tell you what I know about that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
They are planning to do a live-action version, but some guy in Germany has owned the film rights to The Last Unicorn for reasons that I don't remember. But, it's one of those weird things where some random person owns the film rights and isn't doing anything with them.
Right, right.
And the original creators, then, their hands are sort of tied.
Right.
But that copyright expires and reverts back to Peter in 2015.
Ooh, okay. So hold on, Christopher Lee. Hold on for one more year. One more year. Come on, please, 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 please.
I will tell you something that Peter has told me, and that he also tells audiences sometimes on the Last Unicorn tour stops.
Okay, so this is not something you'll get in trouble for.
No, this is something that Peter puts out there, and he does it much better than me because it involves a Christopher Lee impression.
Oh, nice.
Which I cannot do.
Right, right.
But I'll do my best.
Okay.
But Peter says that Christopher Lee has said to him, "If by the time you get to do your live-action version, I have departed this mortal world, do not be afraid. I have risen from the dead before."
Oh my God, I love it.
I know. Yeah. He's like a great age to be Haggard now. I mean, he's like 90. He's like 90, so if he can prop himself up to do it, I'm sure he looks the part more than ever.
That would be a fantastic role for him at this point. I really think so. Oh.
You want to know something else about that film?
What's that?
That perspective film that I hope they get to make. If they make it,
yeah,
I am going to be agitating to be in it as an extra. I feel like I could do that, I know enough of the people who'd be involved in that, I could just be like, I just want to be, I don't need a speaking line. I don't even need to be in focus. I can just be in the background in the tavern, and I'll fly to New Zealand or whatever to do it. I just want to be physically in the Last Unicorn movie so bad. So, I mean, I've decided that that's one of my goals in life now.
No, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I can see that. I know that it was actually really sad, but Gregory Peck was originally going to be cast as Grandpa Joe in the recent Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie, and he was really excited about it, but it never came through, and he actually passed away before they could get it.
Aww.
But man, wouldn't that have been a wonderful way to go out on his career?
That really, really would have been great casting too. He would have been.
I know, he was fantastic, but things didn't work out, unfortunately.
And that could have been Gregory Peck's final role, and that would have been fine. It's always a little sad when somebody's final role is something stupid.
Like Raul Julia?
That's exactly who I was thinking of, yes.
Yeah, yeah, great actor, and I don't know if it's wonderful that most people only remember him as Addams Family, but that was a wonderful role that he did. But yeah, final role was M. Bison in the Street Fighter movies. Ugh.
Yep. Sigh.
Yeah.
You know what Orson Welles' final role was?
The voice of the planet in the Transformers movie, right?
Very good.
Yeah. Oh, you try to trip me up, but I'm in the know. I had some knowledge. Woohoo!
I should never underestimate you.
Most people do, and usually it's not a problem because they're just right, but yay, I was right this time. But we touched on it briefly, but yes, your book is the Heavenly Nostrils Chronicle. Chronicle?
Yes, it was. Originally, the book was just going to be called Heavenly Nostrils, like the strip.
Right, right.
For a while, I didn't know if I was going to even get to call the strip that. We called it that tentatively. I mean, we changed it from Girl.
Right.
Like I said, and my editor at the time was like, yeah, we can call it that for now. We can have it launch on Go Comics and run online under that name, but we should be thinking about another name because newspaper editors tend to be squeamish and conservative, small c conservative, and we'll want something more neutral for the newspaper launch. And
sure.
Then we basically ran out of time to do that, so that's just the name of it now. I won that argument because we ran out of time to change it.
Yay, good.
But originally the book was going to be called Heavenly Nostrils 2, and the proof copy of it that I have has that title on it.
Okay.
Barnes & Noble said that they would buy more copies of it if we changed the title to something that reflected more of the content of the book. So the book is now called Phoebe and Her Unicorn, A Heavenly Nostrils Chronicle.
Is this the second Heavenly Nostrils book?
Nope.
Oh, okay. So 2 was just a joke?
What?
So you said it was going to be called Heavenly Nostrils 2?
Oh, I meant like in the sense of
Oh,
also.
as in, okay, T.
As
I understand.
in addition to the strip being called that, the book was
I
going
see,
to
I
be
see.
called
I thought,
Heavenly Nostrils 2, the first Heavenly Nostrils book. Yeah, just to mess with everybody.
I think it would have been hilarious because people would have been like, "Where's the first one?
After
This
I
seems
saw
to be the original, but where's the original?"
after I saw Apollo 13, I tried to rent Apollo 1 through 12, and yes, I get. Let me remind you all that I get paid to do jokes.
Right, right.
So if you didn't think what I just said was funny, you're wrong.
Yeah. I get paid to not do jokes, but doesn't stop me.
Yeah, I did it for free for years.
I love when Ghostbusters 3 rumors were circulating about Bill Murray said that he wanted $10 million to not be in the movie. Which is a good one.
Then we lost Harold Ramis.
Yeah, I hope they don't do it at this point. I really do. I love Ghostbusters. Just
yeah, I already hoped they didn't do it. Ghostbusters 2 isn't even. I mean, it's okay.
Honestly, for me, the fact that Ghostbusters 2 is so mediocre is the only reason I wanted a Ghostbusters 3. Because I want the series to end on a very positive note. And often you get that to be the case. The sequel is just not nearly as good.
But then they come back and do a third, like with Indiana Jones.
Exactly, yes.
Oh, the second one is meh, and then the third one's, I think, almost as good as the first one.
Absolutely, I would agree. Yeah, and then, I mean, there are exceptions. Terminator 2 was better than the first, I think.
I think Rescuers Down Under is better than Rescuers.
I would agree. Godfather 2, better than the original, I think.
Godfather 2 is like the best sequel ever made. I think isn't it still the only sequel ever to win Best Picture?
I think so. I'm not 100% sure, but I think so. Well, I mean, if you're talking part 2, then yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. But.
Yeah. And then Godfather 3.
Yeah.
It's we can put that on the list of movies that just don't really exist. We all just imagined that.
Like Terminator 4, right.
Yes, or Caddyshack 2, or
yes.
Equestria Girls.
Or pretty much any Disney movie part 2 that was only released on DVD.
Yeah, pretty much. The exception being Lion King 1.5, which is actually pretty fun.
Lion King 1.5 is good, but I don't think it stands on its own as a movie.
Maybe not. I mean, it's sort of an extended riff on the first films.
Right.
So I suppose if I had never seen The Lion King, 1.5 wouldn't.
Right.
I wouldn't really have been into it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have understood it.
Right, but like Terminator 2, if you haven't seen the first one, they recap the whole thing in 8 seconds. And
yeah, I actually don't. I had seen Terminator 2 years before I ever saw Terminator 1, and I didn't have any trouble with it.
Yeah. I think that holds well. Arguably, Empire Strikes Back better than the original.
Aliens.
Ooh, really?
I think Aliens is better than Alien.
Really?
I mean, they're really different movies.
Yeah, that's true.
I couldn't get through 3. I never tried to get through 4, but
3 I kind of liked just because it had a feeling of despair, because there's no way, even if they succeed, they've failed.
I was not, when I tried to watch 3, I was just not in a good place to be watching it.
Understandable.
I was in college during a particularly stressful time, and I don't know. Right. I couldn't get past the autopsy. It was like, no, I need to watch something happier than this.
It's I think Sue Murphy, the comedian, said it best, saying that you have to be careful what you do at certain points in your life. For example, if you're in a career that doesn't seem to be going anywhere, a Stairmaster is not the machine you should be using.
Yeah.
Because it's such a metaphor for, I'm working so hard, and I'm not getting anywhere. I'm in the same place I was when I started, and I don't have any more energy.
Well, it's like friends I know, too, who, can't get into the show The Office or the movie Office Space because it's just too much like the jobs they hate.
I can understand that. When my first job in Japan was in a chain school, and the higher-ups didn't care about the lower downs, and vice versa. Dilbert was one of the few comic strips to run in the English paper over here, so we had something called the Dilbert Scale. It was 1 week, 5 strips of Dilbert. If the boss says something that verbatim is something our boss said, that scores you 20 points. And if the situation in the comic strip is something that you could easily see happening in your office, that was 10 points. So, out of 100 points possible, we would rate how has our week been on the Dilbert scale.
Did that get depressing?
It really did, because we were like, look at this, we're at an 80% this week, and last week was 90, and look at this, we just got a memo that we're changing the name of our quality control center to quality center.
Yeah, I almost feel like if I actually worked in that kind of environment, Dilbert might be really depressing.
It's funny, and it lets off some steam, but yeah, to an
Which I
extent.
think is the point of Dilbert, and the reason
Yep.
that it's been so successful. It's not just a matter of it being a funny strip. It obviously
Right.
speaks to a lot of people's experience.
Yeah. Well, and he was one of the first ones to, use email and take suggestions from people. So
Yeah,
the
and
fact that it's relatable is not a coincidence.
well, and in the beginning too, it was all. I mean, he was still an engineer, and so a lot of it
Yep.
was like just he'd talk about what was happening in his life, I
Yep.
guess, and yeah, and then later, his readers became a terrific resource for him when his life stopped being a normal office thing.
Yep.
When his career transitioned to being a cartoonist, which is, I mean, the internet sort of changed this, but it's sort of an inherently solitary occupation.
That's true. Yep.
You spend a lot of time being a writer of any kind is. You end up needing to spend a lot of quiet time by yourself.
Right. Yeah. Which makes it hard when you need to interact with the outside world to get ideas flowing.
And any writer kind of does.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think writers who get too. I like with J.D. Salinger. I wonder about this.
Mm.
Like, he sort of separated himself from the world, but apparently he was still writing that whole time.
Right.
And apparently we're going to start getting some new. Now that he's dead, apparently we're going to start getting some new Salinger stuff that he wrote during his years of not publishing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I'm curious about it, but I'm also very nervous about it in sort of the same way that I would be sort of the same way I'm nervous about another Star Wars movie.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like, after all this time, can it live up? And if it's a disappointment, what will that mean?
Right. Right.
And I mean, he was just sitting by himself in his house, so it's like, did he? I hope he remembered a lot of things to write about, because it seemed like not much was actually happening to him.
Well, I know that Stephen King has hinted at it, but he suggested that quite a lot of prolific authors have in a safe deposit box somewhere 2 or 3 novels that they have finished and never released, and those are for the dry times.
It is nice to have a backlog of some kind for the dry times, because every artist experiences them, and I have to have strips there every day,
right?
No matter what's going on in my life.
Yeah.
I mean, I always live in fear that, like, I'll be way behind and I won't have much of a backlog, and like somebody I know will die or something.
I can understand that. Yeah.
And then I'll just be unable to do my job, and if I don't have enough in the can, I'm sort of screwed then.
I remember very specifically, just after 9/11, I immediately wanted to read all of the newspaper comics because so many of them had been pulled and replaced with just an ad or something, because so many people didn't feel funny anymore.
Yeah, being funny right in the wake of 9/11.
And for me, that was kind of the ultimate test, because I remember Foxtrot didn't miss a single strip. He drew, and he knew this stuff would be pulled. He drew something that day. And it wasn't incredibly funny. No, it wasn't incredibly funny, but it was still nice.
It was really hard to be funny. I remember the Daily Show went off the air for a couple weeks at the time, and then when John came back, he started it off with this monologue that was not meant to be funny. He was talking like very seriously about what was going on, and that was what people wanted then. There was just sort of this atmosphere everywhere that trying to be really funny was, if not inappropriate, at least just not what people were in the mood for.
Yeah. And I think that in times like that, that really separates the people who can do it from the people who are born to do it. Or
I think
need
so.
to do it, because I mean, the fact that he could still put out things that were slightly humorous or had a humanistic approach to it in such a terrible time.
I was doing Ozzy and Millie at the time, and I I think, alluded to 9/11 in the strip once,
Right.
and then I made a sort of an attempt to be funny, maybe not laugh out loud, haha, funny, but it was like,
Right.
but let's put a smile here at the end of this because we all need to move on. Other
Right.
than that, I just sort of did the strip the way I always did the strip because that was how I knew to do it.
Right. Right.
I I didn't feel like I had anything new to say about 9/11, really.
Sure.
I mean, everything that was being said, I didn't, obviously what had happened was very, very bad,
Yeah.
and I commented about that on the site, but actually in the strip itself, I just didn't have anything. I
Yeah.
certainly didn't have anything funny to say about it, and
Well, yeah. I think that would.
I didn't really think I had anything original to say about it either.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just think that in difficult times, the ability to keep going with something funny,
Yeah,
it really shows the quality of an artist.
I have a lot of respect for Bill Amond, the creator of Foxtrot.
Yes.
Did you know why would you know this? I stole a drink from him one time.
Oh, that's great.
He and I have the same day-to-day editor.
Okay.
Her name is Sheena. Hi, Sheena, if you're listening to this. And she and I and Bill were all. It was at Comic-Con last year, and there was this
Right.
big dinner that the syndicate held for cartoonists and editors and who all was there at the con. And um, Bill was drinking grapefruit juice and vodka.
Okay.
That may have a name. If it does, I don't know it, but that's what Bill was drinking.
Mhm.
And he ordered one, and then he got up from the table to talk to somebody, and his drink was just sitting there, untouched.
Mm.
And I was sitting next to Sheena, and I looked at the drink, and I said, "I'm thinking of stealing Bill's drink." And Sheena said, "Do it."
Did he ever notice, or
As far as I know, no. He
okay?
didn't. He never said anything to me about it.
If you're listening now, sorry, she owes
Yes.
you a drink.
Yeah, I owe you a drink, Bill. But Sheena told me to do it, so maybe she owes you a drink.
Bill was actually the first famous person to ever respond to me, ever.
That's cool.
It was
In
back in
what?
the day. It was when he started going from daily and Sundays to just Sunday. And I sent him an email message saying, I understand why you're doing this, and I appreciate that you're doing this. I'm just really hopeful that you're doing this won't turn out to be like Calvin and Hobbes, where it's just a prelude to you retiring. And he wrote me back the next day saying, oh, thank you for your letter. I appreciate it. And I have no intention of going anywhere, but I do need more time for stuff and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, that must have been exciting for you.
It was really cool. I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
talk to me. I've got every one of his books. Ah! It was cool.
The internet has really lowered the barrier between artists and fans.
It has.
It's not that hard anymore to interact with people that you admire, and most of the time, I think that's a good thing.
Yes, quite often it is.
Depending,
It's definitely, I think, humanized a lot more people that I used to idolize.
I think so, and I suppose that's a good thing.
It is.
Except in the cases where somebody turns out to just be really disappointing.
Yeah, and that can happen too. But I think at this point in my life, I'm able to accept. Okay, this guy's a jerk, but what he makes is really nice, and I'm going to take what he makes at that level, and I just won't interact with him anymore.
To the greatest extent possible, I think that's what people should do.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard if somebody's particularly odious,
Yes, this is
like
true.
if they're a Holocaust denier or something, and
Oh,
you
God.
find that out about them. But yeah, for the most part, it's good to just. Maybe it's good not to put people in too high a pedestal. Maybe it's
Yep.
good to recognize that, hey, the people that you look up to that make all this stuff that you love, they're human beings, and they
Yep. Very true.
they have as many flaws as you probably.
Yeah. Well, a question that I ask in each of my interviews, in all of My Little Pony, what would you say is the one line or one scene that defines you as a brony?
People who know me well would say that the line that defines me best is, I'm going to do what I do best, lecture her.
Nice. And that is your preferred method of approaching a problem? Lecture?
I am one of those people who is used to trying to talk my way out of problems.
Okay, okay.
As Jeff Winger said on Community, I learned young that if I talked long enough, I could make anything true.
That's good too.
I'm trying to think if I know that is what probably my husband would say is my line from My Little Pony. I'm trying to think if I have a different one that I would put there. It'd definitely be a Twilight Sparkle line because she's always the pony I've felt drawn to.
Right.
She's a big nerd, and me too.
Yeah, I can see it.
Also, she panics very impressively.
Something that I've really liked about this current season, Twilight still panics.
She does. She's still
not
Twilight.
not to the extent, but she does panic. But it's very specific instances when she panics. When Celestia or somebody above her presents her with a task that she's not sure she can do, she panics.
And that's sort of always been the case. She's just developed a lot more confidence about what she can do. She's learned This is a weird. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, at the same point, at another point in the series, when the Cutie Mark Crusaders bring their entire class over to learn lessons from her, she doesn't even blink. She's like, all of you are going to take a special private lesson with me? Yeah, come on in. No problem.
Okay, sure, I can do that.
And she's ready. She says, okay, people want to learn magic over here. If you want to learn this over here. She's ready, doesn't even bat an eye. But Celestia...
She reminded me of Harry Potter when all the kids turn out to learn defense against dark arts from him in the Room of Requirement.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot like that, and Harry's just like, oh, there's a lot of you. Okay, let's get started.
Yeah. Yeah, so I like that we can see, even in the princess, we can see character development.
Yeah, but it's character development that makes sense. Like, she's not developed... Yeah, this is all credit to the writers. I like Twilight's arc as a character. She's still got the same traits, but she's grown a lot in confidence. She knows a lot. Her abilities have increased, and also her faith in her own abilities has increased.
That's very true. Very true.
And she no longer feels insecure about certain relationships. She doesn't worry about losing her friends nearly as much. She doesn't worry that Celestia is going to reject her nearly as much.
Yeah. I can foresee an upcoming story where she might get afraid of speaking with Luna for some reason.
I could imagine that.
How do they work in the hierarchy? Celestia is obviously at the top, but is Luna above Twilight, or is Twilight above Luna? I don't know.
Yeah, what exactly is... What's the pony line of succession?
Yeah. I can see this.
If Celestia were suddenly gone, who would take over?
My guess would be, right now, Luna. But
probably Luna, but that might go very badly.
I can even see it being Cadence.
Yeah, well, she's already ruling
a country, and
the Crystal Empire hasn't blown up yet that we've seen, so she might be good at it.
Yeah, I mean, if it's, I would see it if it's a short crisis, give it to Cadence, because Celestia's going to be back in a little bit, and we don't need to change everything around. We'll just have a few extra duties, but yeah, I can see this becoming a story. I can.
I could imagine it. It wouldn't be outside, and I'd like to see more stuff involving Luna. I feel like there's not really enough of her.
Well, I think that's most of the fandom. We want just Luna.
Yeah.
If they would announce Season 6 is just Luna interacting with every pony that you know.
Yeah, that would go over big. I don't know if Hasbro would never do it, but it would be cool.
Yeah, that's true. But we would love it.
Yeah, Luna's not even my favorite princess now that Twilight's won, but I still really want to see more of her.
Yeah. That's why I think a Luna Twilight episode would just be amazing.
Yeah, I really want to see those two characters together more.
Yep.
I want to know what Luna and Twilight talk about.
Well, frankly, I mean, Season 3...
My guess is probably Twilight will have a lot of questions about Luna's torrid affair with Starsorrel the Bearded.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the most except for Luna Eclipsed, except for that one, the most interaction they've had is in Season 3 opener when Luna's walking out of the room and Twilight's walking in, and Luna just gives her the death glare, like, you. And just keeps walking, and Twilight's like, what? Okay.
Yeah, but Luna always looks like that, so you don't really know. Yeah, I mean, it's a death glare, but if you know her, that's just her face.
Right, exactly. Well, everybody, today we have been speaking with Ms. Dana Simpson. Be sure to check out Heavenly Nostrils on the syndicated GoComics.com.
Woohoo!
And very soon, Phoebe and Her Unicorn, a Heavenly Nostrils Chronicle, coming out in September. You can pre-order it now.
I would like to further note that
yes.
I will be at BabsCon next month,
Oh,
and
nice.
I will be at Everfree Northwest, of course, this summer.
Okay.
And I have also
Technically, as this is released, you have been at BabsCon a week and a half ago.
all right, yeah, I was at BabsCon, so if you saw me there, hi. And then I'll be at Everfree Northwest, and I will be also at DerpyCon South
Oh, nice. So
in
here's a question:
New Orleans.
If you're at a convention after September, will you have copies of your book?
Yes, I will.
Woo! Woohoo! Yeah!
And at every subsequent convention. I
Yay!
kind of hate that I don't have them now because it's sort of I've been like at Emerald City I was letting people go through my proof copy and I was like, "Do you like this? You can't buy it, but do you like it?"
The ultimate tease.
And then I would like a lot of the time then people would like buy Ozzy and Millie books. They'd be like, "Oh, well, I'll check out your old stuff." It's like when you get into a band and it's like, "Well, what's their first album sound like?"
Yeah. Yeah, you can go ahead and check out Ozzy and Millie. There's even a little shop that says My Store, and it's got a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, that's where the store is.
Yep. Thank you so much for coming by and speaking with us today.
It's been a genuine pleasure.
Yay, I'm glad to hear that. And
Enjoy
look for
your
her
well.
as the third character from the left in the new Last Unicorn movie.
Yes, I'll be the one smiling and waving at the camera and then getting thrown off the set.
Worth it. Totally worth it.
Hi, Mom.
Everyone, this has been Osaka Jack with Into the Spotlight on Everfree Network. We'll catch you next time.